And a good afternoon to you, WDUN Sports Talk, WDUN TV. Thank you for being with us. We talk all things sports, mainly high school, but sometimes we go outside the realm. I'm Judd Hickenbotham. That is Morgan Lee. He does cover all the sports. How are you?
Pretty good. Been a fun day at the golf course this week.
Yeah, I'm sure it has been. Morgan probably has a little more color now because he's been hanging out at the golf course, which we'll get to a little bit. I know it's a tough job.
So hard.
It's very tough. All right, so we got a lot of things to get to, including, yes, there is a golf tournament in the Gainesville area that you can hit this weekend. We'll talk a little more about that. High school sports continue, the spring sports, baseball, soccer, and whatnot. We'll make fun of at least my brackets there for a minute because, geez, I was bad this year. But let's start with what we started with last week. And that is, last week we were kind of anticipating what was going to happen as far as the GHSA was concerned. They do this every, couple of years, right?
Every 2 years, yeah.
Every 2 years, they the reclassification, that kind of thing, and try to shuffle the deck, so to speak. But we went through, 3 or 4 different plans that it might be, and we said, well, they might end up going with this 4-8 plan, which we'll discuss a little bit later. And that ends up being the one that they have discussed. Nothing was voted on. They ended up tabling it until May, but it was the 4-8 plan. It was the one that's kind of the most, dramatic, most radical of all the different ones, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's certainly the most creative, I guess you could say, where in that you would play all the GHSA's member schools would play in 4 different classifications during the regular season, and then they would split those classifications in half, each one of them, for the postseason, so that you'd be playing for 8 different state titles. And those classes would be split, by size, so you'd have upper and lower divisions within each class. It's certainly the most kind of out there thing that I think the GHSA has ever tackled, at least that I can remember. And I mean, I'm talking about not just from my professional life, but even when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But when you said discussed, I mean, I think that was. That's putting it lightly. I mean, yeah. They literally discussed this issue for probably about 30 seconds, and tabled it. I mean, there's so much that they have not even kind of scratched the surface on yet that they didn't even want to take the time to really get into the debate. The reclassification committee, forwarded this plan onto the executive committee in a meeting on Sunday night, and they only passed it 7-5. So you could see that it wasn't exactly a. Hey, we think this is the best. This is the best.
Was it
thing.
Unanimous or even close to?
No, not even close. And frankly, I think because they had a deadline and they had to put something up for the executive committee to vote on, they came to the closest to a consensus they could and just forwarded it on, knowing that probably was going to get tabled. And sure enough, I mean, 30 seconds, motion to table, second, done.
Boom, done. And I think that's probably the right idea. I mean, if you're going to completely change something around, because I guess reclassification, what we've seen is lines are drawn a little bit differently. Schools go from AAA to Quad A, that kind of thing. Or you add another classification, which I guess, I don't know when that happened. What, late 90s was it?
It was 2000, actually. 2000.
It was in 2000. So, but yeah, this is by far the most radical thing. Then.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it is by no means over. They're going to meet again in May at a date not yet decided. I talked to Dexter Wood, who's on the executive committee, and I talked to Tommy Stringer, who's the athletic director at Loganville, and he is on the reclassification committee. And the reclassification committee will meet again to kind of rehash this and decide what they need to do as far as tweaking either the 4-8 plan, going back to maybe even the 6 classification plan, or totally scrapping it all and doing something totally different. So, watch this space, because when the executive committee meets again in May, we may be looking at something totally different, and frankly, I expect us to be.
Yeah, I would think so, too. When you say tweak, I think water down at the very least.
At the very least.
4-8 kind of thing. And you can bang on any plan they come up with. You can, talk negatively about it and say, why are you doing this? Because it's so easy to, kind of put down change and that kind of thing. I'm trying to find the good things about a 4-8 plan and that kind of thing. I mean, I guess the idea is to allow more teams, more schools chances to win state championships. What it seems to do is the teams that you play in the regular season aren't even the teams you're necessarily going to play in the playoffs. I mean, doesn't it take a little bit away from what the regular season is?
Yeah, frankly, I think a lot of the impetus for this plan has come from these smaller middle to South Georgia public schools who have banded together in this kind of, really unprecedented coalition. I mean, they even threatened, some of these schools threatened to leave the GHSA and go to GISA, and GISA actually doesn't even have any public schools in it. So
really?
I'm not even sure that GISA would accept them. So we're talking about all kinds of subterfuge, but they feel like all these Metro Atlanta private schools have I guess an advantage, an unlevel playing field when it comes to the postseason. So this is the plan that they like because they feel like this gives them the best chance of having some kids win state titles. Frankly, I don't know that this solves all of our issues, and the two biggest issues that they were trying to fix here were travel because of costs being so exorbitant these days, and these this level playing field. Mm-hmm. And I hate to sound like this, but frankly, not everybody gets a trophy at the end of the season, and I feel like that's where we're headed with this kind of thinking. This seems to me a very sort of, yay, let's everybody get a trophy.
Right.
And I don't want to sound callous, but, kids have to learn that they're not always going to win in life, and it's what better time to do it when you're young on a sports team when it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I agree with you. At the same time, I can kind of see their point, what they're saying, because it seems to me that if you are a smaller South Georgia school, you're not going to win a bunch of championships, but if you go up against a private school in Atlanta that doesn't necessarily recruit, but can kind of bring in what players they want to. They're going to bring in the 340-pound left tackle. It's like, hey, he just happens to come to our school. It's amazing. And I know that happens all over the place. So I kind of see what they're saying. I don't know how to fix something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure there is a real answer unless the GHSA were to go to that, to split off and do private schools playing only in their classification.
It seems like a lot more travel.
Yeah,
it would be a ton more travel to do that.
I don't see them going to a private school classification. I don't see them. I actually could see them going back to a multiplier, which we had at one point, which it was for, I guess, from like 2001 to 2007, that every student in a private school counted 1.5 times as opposed to just, once.
So they had that, and then they got rid of it, huh?
Yeah, they had that and then got rid of it. And that was actually kind of prompted by even the Georgia State Legislature and Tom Murphy, and that's a whole other story. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this develops. I really think that, like I said, once we revisit this issue in May, it's going to look very, very different.
Yeah, people are going to have complaints, all kinds of complaints, and there's no right answer. There's not going to be any answer. It's going to get everything done, but we'll see what they come up with May. We'll be talking about this again. All right, we'll take a break. We got some more high school sports to talk about, but up next, there is a golf tournament you might want to. Well, we'll let Morgan answer that if you should go to it this weekend. He's been covering it. More after this. WDUN Sports Talk on WDUN TV. Be right back.
At Riverside Pharmacy, if you have questions, they have answers. If you don't have time, they won't make you wait. If you need special items, Riverside Pharmacy can order them. They want to be your pharmacy, and that's what sets them apart. Service. And just inside Riverside is the Gift Nook, where you'll find more great service in a new line of beautiful wall plaques and great colorful bags. Shop the Gift Nook in Riverside Pharmacy in the old Sherwin-Williams building on Green Street.
At the offices of Dr. Norman Peets, DDS on Green Street in Gainesville, patients have all their general dentistry needs explained. Ask about sedation dentistry. Dr. Peets' team of professionals puts you at ease. Dedicated, experienced professional. He's Gainesville's family dentist. Dr. Norman Peets, 615 Green Street in Gainesville. North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9, WDUN. Now 2 stations strong, AM 550, FM 102.9, WDUN.